I'm Eric Paul Johnson.
And I'm Eric Winsenson.
And before we got on, we were talking about German music and Zoom. And I'm just thinking, I would love to hear a polka version of Zoom, just the entire album. That'd be great.
Exactly. But I was afraid that if there was a German version, it would just be Jeff singing in phonetic German, that somebody handed him a translation, probably an American who barely speaks it. And
Yeah, I
and
mean,
using the same backing tracks, just tries to make it fit.
yeah, I don't know what the uh, educational system is like in Birmingham, England, but if the Beatles could sing Sleep Deek and the other one, Come Give Me Your Handy, um, then maybe Jeff knows German too.
Well, that was Liverpool.
Yeah, no,
And they basically just, I think, well, no, they probably spoke it a little bit because they got
well,
stuck there in Hamburg
that's right.
forever.
They did spend a lot of time in Germany. Um, I don't know if Jeff ever, played there before he became a big deal, before the move. I don't think he probably didn't go through the same, you know, system that the Beatles went through. Where you,
Yeah, I think that kind of changed. By that time, it was more of a local
yeah,
club type thing.
yeah, and kind of work your way around England. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways, we're gonna catch up on all the back comments about the last two songs, and then we'll be up to date. But first, I need to get out the noisemaker. We have a whole mess of new subscribers. Oshkiv, we get a celebratory noisemaker. Vols Deep 88, George
All
Lales,
okay.
and Miguel Gura. They are new subscribers to the YouTube page, the Electric Light Orchestra channel, and it's on YouTube. And we've cleared 150. I think we're at 150. I don't remember. 153. So we're getting up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty soon we'll be as famous as PewDiePie. Probably do something to end up the same way he did.
I have no idea. Oh, Eric. See, I'm sitting here trying not to scratch, and you're the one who's got your phone on. Man, violating all the broadcast. Would you like to chew some gum too while you're on the air?
I might as You wouldn't believe how many professional broadcasts I hear these days. I'm not talking about internet radio. I'm talking about actual terrestrial radio where they'll
Yeah.
be in the middle of a conversation and somebody's phone starts ringing.
Bleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Comments, because we get a lot.
Yes,
First
we
up is for Get a Hold of Yourself.
do. Okay. So Mike Hudson says, I had to listen to this online because I don't have the particular release it appears on. Yeah, you guys are right. The intro does remind one of the Blue Oyster Cult song, or rather, it'd actually be the other way around, wouldn't it? Just like the previous song of the week, this song sounds nothing like anything Jeff's written before or after, but it is a good song. Unlike you guys, I don't think either of these songs are better than anything on the third day. I just don't understand your dislike for that album. I still think it's among the best E.L.O. albums. To me, On the Third Day and El Dorado are on the same level, but that's my taste. I do think this is the better of the two Carl Wayne songs you have reviewed so far. Again, though, I like to hear the same song with Jeff's lead vocal. By the way, EPJ, that song you were wondering about possibly being a guitar, that sound you were wondering about possibly being a guitar, is an organ run through distortion. Deep Purple used this sound quite a bit back then, as did a lot of other bands that had organists. Again, the organ makes another rare appearance in the ELO in an ELO track. It's been suggested that some of the backing vocals are Roy Wood, and it sounds like it to me as well. As I mentioned before, I read somewhere that Jeff and Roy were considering adding Carl to the ELO 1 lineup. I wish I could find that quote to repost. Wow, I couldn't believe Troy's comments. He really needs to get a hold of himself, but in a different way.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, that. Well, at least it wasn't what he did that one time with the voices and everything.
See, that's usually the bar that I judge by. At least he's not doing the Bee Gees again. So,
Yes.
so, innuendo. Okay, that's fine. I get where he's going with that. Just don't do the Bee Gees again. I don't hate on the third day. I like it. I think it's okay. I don't know. In my head, it's sort of like a placeholder between ELO 2 and El Dorado, and El Dorado being the far superior album. Up to 1974, I think it's the best ELO album. You know, up to that point. So I don't hate it. I just kind of like, oh yeah, on the third day, it's over there. It's not bad. Let's see. There was something. Oh, the organ. Yeah, thank you for setting me straight on that. That makes a whole lot more sense now than guitar. As for Jeff and Roy and Carl and ELO, I don't know what would have been the point. Why not just still call themselves the Move? Kind of sort of reminds me of when Tim Finn joined Neil Finn in Crowded House. Why don't you guys just call yourself Split Ends or Split Ends again if you want? Okay. Trevor Raggett has a very long quote or comment, and I will say what he wrote. And if there are any comments to make about it while I'm talking, Bob will do it because I'm going to guess that Troy's hand on this side is probably much more stronger to repetitive motion like this without getting really tired, judging by what he wrote or what he said in that last episode.
And a
Right.
lot of his Facebook comments.
Well, I can relate to those comments before I had a wife or girlfriends. So yeah, which was a very long time.
Wait a minute,
Trevor.
you're not worthy. How can you lift Mjolnir? Oh, anyway.
Trevor Raggett. Yes, another great demo from the Carl Wayne sessions. Like EW, I don't like it quite as much as Your World, but there's a really great song in there, Bursting to Get Out. Sounds like a very early demo recording. There are definitely parts of the choruses where the instruments lose touch with each other a little, and their timing's not quite together. One to fix in the overdubs. A more finished version would have been a fantastic thing to hear. A very nice slice of early 70s soul rock. The verses really showed Jeff drawing from the Percy Sledge and Marvin Gaye songbooks in the writing and sounding. Oh, and sounding great doing it. I love the loose but tight feel of the song, especially Bev's drumming. He's clearly having fun with this tune. But I suspect EPJ has a completely the wrong way around. On the Third Day is Jeff's passion project, not this. The arrangements and creative restrictions on that will have been exactly what Jeff wanted. That's his artistic vision when he was saying to Bev, no, just go thud, tish, thud, tish on this one. Yes, all the way through. Which just makes you appreciate the run from El Dorado through to Time even more, where the music does breathe more. Here he's in day job. Give the customer what he wants, session producer mode. And to me, it seems that clearly Carl was saying, I want a loose soul feel. Kinda Stax, kinda Motown, kinda Muscle Shoals, but with a touch of Rod Stewart and Joe Cocker. Bev, make it nice and big. Throw in some Purdy shuffle, and don't be afraid to go for it. Mike, make that bass line super funky. In my imagination, it's Jeff who's in the studio mumbling under his breath, grumble, grumble. That's not how I would have done it, but I suppose that if that's how Carl wants it, then that's what we have to do, grumble, grumble. And that keyboard sound? An overdriven Hammond organ. A very distinctive tone that was characteristic of John Lord or Keith Emerson. and many other rock keyboard players sound at the time. Think of the intro to Deep Purple's Highway Star, or the organ lead parts in ELP's Tarkus for more examples of that sound. Well, when Sensen can think of those sounds, because I don't know Highway Star, I probably don't know much about Tarkus.
Yeah, if you're going to go for a snippet, you'll have to listen to the entire 18, 19 minutes of Tarkus. It is worth it. It's one of
Okay.
ELP's best suites.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Tarkus is that's actually a good thing to bring up because it's similar to On the Third Day. One side that's actually really good. Another side that is, why did they record this? It's just kind of flipped on that. Tarkus takes up the entire front side. You got the lyrics don't exactly follow the story about an armadillo tank born from a volcano that goes around fighting different robot creatures. Drugs are okay.
I
uh,
yeah,
the second side is basically them goofing around, and you've heard Emerson, Lake, and Palmer goof around before.
I did. The ill-fated podcast that you were going to do that I was going to do with you, where you had me listen to an album and then we discussed that album, but that kind of we got about 3 episodes in and you never had a chance to finish those up.
I never had a chance to finish them up, and it was sad because by the time we started hitting a stride when we got to brain salad surgery, and where Benny the bouncer just comes out of nowhere with a bunch of silliness and
yeah.
But no, Highway Star. I know you're probably going to find the snippet for that. I would not expect you to be the biggest Deep Purple fan, but you might want to listen through that. It might be something you like.
Well, my Deep Purple experience is limited to Smoke on the Water, which I wasn't all that crazy about before, but when you hear it 100 billion times,
when you do your snippet, do listen to Highway Star. It's from the same album as Smoke on the Water.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll understand why my complaint is Smoke on the Water is a good song, but it was kind of a throwaway song that they put on there.
Mm-hmm.
They stole the riff from Richie Blackmore stole the riff from I forget, it was a big band production of some sort. They just never got caught at it until
right.
he admitted it a long time later.
Right.
But yeah, he unlike with Folsom Prison Blues, he never got caught. Like Johnny Cash did when they finally heard, hey, wait a minute, that's our song.
Yeah.
But no, if you listen to Highway Star and Space Truckin' off of that album, then you'll realize why people like the Machine Head album so much. And because Smoke on the Water is the throwaway song that became a hit single.
Yeah, it sure did.
So much more better on that album,
right?
Including the album tracks. So, yeah, that's a complaint of mine too. Smoke on the Water is overplayed. Actually, it's Richie Blackmore's complaint too.
I'm sure.
But yeah, when you hear Highway Star, you'll understand a little bit more why people like Deep Purple so much, especially with John Lord's organ playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the only other song I know is Hush, which I'm always back and forth. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it, but I kind of like it. So I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a different Deep Purple. At that time they were trying to be the British version of Vanilla Fudge.
That
was actually their stated goal at the time: be the British version of Vanilla Fudge. Take other people's songs, either slow them down or completely rearrange them,
mm-hmm.
and get hits off of it, like Vanilla Fudge did with "You Keep Me Hanging On."
Yeah, I can see that. It sort of sounds Vanilla Fudgy.
Yeah, they do that with the Beatles' Help. They slow it way, way down into a very slow organ-based ballad.
Mm-hmm.
But then they started realizing they're better doing their own stuff. They do a good version of "We Can Work It Out" because they combine that with their own composition as well. But
okay, I'm curious to hear these Deep Purple versions of Beatles songs. How they,
Yeah,
because I mean, considering what they did with "You Keep Me Hanging On," it's like that's a completely radically different version. I'm wondering how what they did with the Beatles.
yeah. Well, help's okay. It just gets boring after a while because they stretch
Mm.
it out too long.
Yeah,
The version where we can work it out though. Yeah, it is great. In fact, they don't depart too much from it. They just add a heavier sound to it when they get to
right,
the song, get to it. But it's not paint by numbers.
right. Okay, I'll have to look for those.
Okay, so getting back
Mm-hmm.
to E.L.O.
Yeah.
There's a newer Canuck group that I really
Ooh,
like
hold
called
on
the
a second
Sheepdogs.
here.
Aaron Jansen. Okay,
There you go. It's Aaron Jansen. Yes.
Aaron Jansen. There's a newer Canuck group that I really like called the Sheepdogs. Their name is more or less, their sound is more or less Southern rock. Know anything about Alberta, don't be too surprised. The main guy who writes all the songs and his brother have a side project called Bros, where they do more R&B stuff with horns, which was a much better album than the Sheepdogs album. I don't understand why they couldn't have just done the side project material under the Sheepdogs banner. By the way, Bros Volume 2, great album. I think with E.L.O., it was kind of the same thing. There, here they had a concept of what the band was supposed to be, and Jeff was writing material that he figured didn't fit into the mold. I came across a Split Ends by the Move album at the record store yesterday, and someone delighted the cover with notes cross-referencing where all the tracks originally came from on the original British releases. E.L.O. No Answer was being made at the same bloody time as Message from the Country and those Move singles. There was a murderous amount of gems that they recorded with the Move that could have been E.L.O. hits, but I don't know. I guess they didn't fit into the mold. Too bad. At least Jeff had a bigger palette of allowable styles into E.L.O. later on. As for the song, that intro is awesome. Imagine a Lewis Clark arrangement over that. Now, Lewis Clark deserves a lot of credit, but Jeff still wrote the songs, and I'm sure he had a lot of input on general direction of those arrangements. I wrote a hymn for a submission contest at my church. Thousands submitted, and only like 300 make their hymn book. Anyways, I wrote a melody line for a pretty awesome song, but I couldn't take it any further. So I worked with an arranger on it for a 4-part arrangement for piano choir. It seemed she couldn't do what I did with the creation of the melody, and I couldn't do what she did with the arrangement anywhere as well as she did. So yes, Lewis Clark is amazing, but without Mr. Lynn, we'd all be asking, Clark who?
Oh, I don't know. I think people everywhere remember Lewis Clark's hit "Hooked on Classics," I believe it was, where it was at least the hit single was 3 minutes. I'm sure the album went on for 30 minutes of classical songs over a disco clap beat, and that was a surprisingly big hit back in 1981. Yeah, yeah.
Once again, drugs are bad, okay?
Split Ends. I had a friend for Christmas 1983. She gave me, or 1984. She gave me a Move compilation. It wasn't Split Ends because sometime in that year I found out, well, E.L.O. came from the Move. Well, what did the Move sound like? So this had, again, this was a bit of a shock to my system when I heard it because it had a lot of the weirder stuff on it. In 1985, I was at a record store with her and flipping through, the Move, Split Ends, and it had Do Ya on it. And I'd never heard the Move version of Do Ya. This was back in the dark times, before YouTube and Spotify and all that, back in the days where you couldn't just go to the internet, there's that song. And no radio station in Phoenix is certainly going to be playing anything by the Move, especially an obscure, their only hit, which got to number 92. So I got the Split Ends album because I wanted to hear the original version of Do Ya. and I like the E.L.O. version better. But there was a whole mess of songs on there that I really liked. So that album kind of turned me around for the move. Um, Down by the Bay is friggin' awesome, and I don't know why it's so obscure. It's such a great song. Jeff Lynne needs to bring that out on his tour, or I don't know. That one just needs to be out there more.
I think that one was the flip side to Chinatown.
It might have been.
Chinatown was a single only release.
Yeah.
That's why it's a little bit more obscure. So it ended up on the American on Split Ends because of the compilation nature of it.
Right. It was the sort of split ends of the move, just little bits, the singles that weren't on albums. So they put them all on one album.
Yeah, no, I had a copy of Chinatown way before I bought the album
Mm.
because since I knew the ELO had come from the Move and I saw Move stuff, I bought it. So I had found a copy of Chinatown with the picture sleeve. I think it's the British copy
Mm.
in a thrift store back
Right.
then, and also had a American promo version of Flowers in the Rain, which is back in their psychedelic stuff with Carl Wayne on it. So
Yeah.
still have both of those, of course, but yeah, Split Ends I bought basically to hear that version of Do Ya,
Mm-hmm.
since I already knew California Man because of Cheap Trick doing the cover of it. So
See, I didn't know any of the other songs on there, and I didn't know Cheap Trick covered California Man until 2006 when I was 37. So it's kind of
yeah, no, I forgot for a long time that they covered it because I heard the Move version so much after a while, and
yeah.
I got some Cheap Trick albums because once again I'm just thinking, okay, let's try Cheap Trick again and see why everybody likes them. Still don't understand that. But their version of California Man is really good, but I still prefer the Move version.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I like the Cheap Trick singles, at least the ones that get all the radio play.
Yeah,
The other stuff,
kind of convinced me, okay, these songs are good. Everybody talks about how quirky their first few albums were and everything. So, okay, what am I missing out on? And I bought them and missing out on generic hard rock.
it's kind of what I thought of the
uh,
other stuff too. Yeah.
yeah, there's a reason where once they ran out of clever lyrics to add into it, that they just kind of dive bombed. Had one hair
Um,
metal hit afterwards, and that was about it.
yeah. Jeff wrote the songs, and I'm sure he had a lot of input into the general direction of those arrangements that Lewis Clark did. Yeah, I got an interview thing with Jeff Lynne that I got to cut up and we'll use for great moments in E.L.O. history, where he says that he didn't know how to do the orchestra, all that stuff. What he would do is he would talk to the conductor, not using Lewis's name, and he would say, "I want it to go like this," and he'd play it on the piano, and the conductor would go, "Okay, sure, I got that," and then Lewis Clark would embellish on that to make it more orchestry than just something played on the piano. So yeah, Jeff and Lewis working together, that was a good music producing combination. They did a lot of great stuff. I wish Jeff would do that again. I believe Lewis's son is pretty much doing the same thing his dad did. He's an arranger and orchestra and all that stuff. So not sure how deep the ELO Part Two rift goes. If it goes even to the offspring of anybody who participated in ELO Part Two.
Maybe we need a Hooked on Classics Part 2 with a boots and pants type club mix. Club
I
people.
no, I don't think so. Let's just go into comments about Mama take wherever
Okay.
take one.
Yeah, before my internet cuts out in 20 minutes. Yes.
Oh dear. Well, we better get going then.
Yes.
Vinny Corbett. My mom was diagnosed with ALS in January of 2020. Then 10 months later, she was gone. This song was going through my head during the last few days of her life. Especially the line, "You used to make it all so very clear, but life must go on though the end is near." ALS is a terrible disease, and I'm glad she isn't suffering anymore. I dedicate this song to my mom, Mary Franklin, 1940 to 2020. Love you, Mom. Um, yeah, I've thought of that line often. Should, well, I suppose when the same thing happens to me. And I, I'm in the middle of comment and I'm reading that thinking, oh, Bob should be reading this. And I'm like, maybe we should keep this dignified. And I'll just put Bob
Exactly.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not one of those things that requires a hand puppet.
God, you know how many times people have told me that in public?
Yes.
Yeah.
Too many
Yeah.
to learn.
Yeah.
Mike Hudson says, much like EPJ, I have a hard time viewing this as anything other than a cover song. But oddly, I never viewed E.L.O.'s version of Do Ya as a cover, probably because I heard that version years before I discovered Jeff had done the song earlier with The Move. So maybe my viewpoint on Mama is unfounded. But still, even though I know the nucleus of E.L.O. is on this version, I can't see it any other way. That being said, it's pretty good version, and I'm glad it's not musically identical to the E.L.O. version. Carl has a great voice and does a good job, but in no universe does he do a better version than Jeff. Jeff's voice is one of the main things that initially appealed to me about E.L.O. I'm also glad there are no strings on this version, otherwise, it would run the risk of sounding too much like the original version.
I always thought the ELO, well, when I found out that Do Ya was the cover on the ELO album, it always still, I thought of it as the cover, even though I heard the original version of Do Ya about 2.5 years after I had heard the ELO version. So I don't know why in my head the ELO version is the cover, yet the Mike Hudson version is the cover of the Rolling Stone. I got lost in where I was going there.
Personally, I agree with you on Do Ya.
Mm-hmm.
The ELO version is quite a bit better.
Yeah.
Um, it's always going to be a catchy song, but the Move version sounds more like a demo,
It really does.
which gets me because most Move stuff does not sound like demo recordings,
No.
but Do Ya sounds like a demo.
Especially the end where Roy or Jeff is hollering, "There's a plane a coming." It's like that's a space holder to let someone know. Put the sound of a jet flying over at the end here. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. But the ELO version, bigger sound, better production.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a plane a coming at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
So yeah. Airplane.
Ah, be a plane in the sky. Yes. Rob Eben. Sweet baby Jesus. Whatever happened to Carl Wayne? His voice is just great. Well, he died. Uh,
Yeah.
Cancer, 2009. And that ended that.
Yeah.
Do we have any more?
Damian Griffin says, awesome to hear Kai's interpretation as well. It's one of those forks in the road, really. Maybe in another universe, no one knows who Jeff is. Maybe they only know who Carl is. But in this universe, I have to think that it's Jeff's writing ability that sent them to where they went. It's nice to hear Carl's voice, but had he joined E.L.O., I'm not sure Jeff and Carl, similar to Roy and Jeff, would have worked. Just a little, I don't know, bossy maybe.
Well, Paul McCartney, who would know, said that Jeff is controlling, but I think, probably in a good way. Because from what Jeff said about the Beatles reunion, when they were all together, George, Paul, and Ringo, they're just talking about the old days. And at some point, Jeff said, "Okay, guys, we got to get going on this song here," and that's when things started moving. Um, yeah, I
You
think.
mean a tape recorder with John's voice on it?
What's that?
Tape recorder with John's voice on it started moving. Sorry,
Yes,
I don't like those Beatles those Beatles songs from the archive stuff. So
I love them. What I hate about them is that I wish, certain events hadn't happened that made it
yeah,
necessary to use a, a cheap cassette for the vocals. So it's probably the last time we'll talk about Carl Wayne. And I'm trying to find a Christmas song to do for the Christmas episode. So far, I'm coming up with nothing. I know that Carl did a version of White Christmas, and I think it should stay where it is. It was in the 80s, I believe, or the 90s, and it is such a flaccid piece of puff. It makes Michael Bolton sound rockin' in comparison. So we will not be doing that song. And I don't think we're going to be doing a Christmas episode this year because I can't find one worth doing. All the E.L.O. related Christmas songs that we haven't covered are pretty lame. So, which I'm sure Winston is all broken up about.
Oh, yeah.
No Christmas episode this year.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
I forget who it was. I think it was Trevor Raggett suggested Lewis Clark did a whole album, Christmas songs, and one of them, it has a kids choir. And there are quite a few kids who are singing out of tune with the other kids to add to that extra saccharine kitty quality to it. And I thought, just so I could get that look, hey, maybe we'll do this for this Christmas episode. Because I know Eric would just that. But even I couldn't stand it. I'm not a big kids choir person anyway. So, yeah. Unless Jeff wants to rush something out, but make it good. There's already enough bad E.L.O. related Christmas songs out there.
Christmas in Birmingham.
I don't know if Jeff can do it. If he can make it sound Christmassy, and not like 1990, break out a banjolero or something.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start searching for Christmas songs just to see if we can keep the tradition alive. But other than that, we're done here.
I think we're done here.